Grazers sometimes take on new pastures or hayfields that have not been actively managed for some time. These areas are typically low in fertility, and forage species may be crowded out by weeds or even brush and tree seedlings. However, with time and effort, it's possible to bring these areas back into productive forage. Because it takes time to modify soil pH and build nutrient levels, it's good to start the process with a soil test. Collect representative samples, send them off for analysis, and follow the recommendations from the soil test report closely. Soils in New Hampshire and throughout the Northeast tend to be acidic, and it's likely you'll need to apply significant quantities of lime, often 3 or 4 tons per acre, to bring the pH back into the desired range. Because nutrient levels are also likely to be low, the soil will require large quantities of soil amendments to bring them back to where they can support vigorous growth. Plant nutrients can come from a variety of sources: fertilizers and other soil amendments, manure, or compost. You can begin to address weeds at the same time you're addressing soil fertility. Simply mowing or grazing areas a few times may be enough to bring about significant improvements in areas with light weed infestations. Many species don't tolerate repeated defoliation the same way grasses do, and they begin to fade away after getting cut a few times each season. While livestock may browse on brush or woody species, cutting or pruning away stems or the trunks of saplings will give you faster results. There are some weeds that are difficult to manage with grazing or physical removal alone. Smooth bedstraw is an invasive weed in pastures and hayfields across the state, but it's not palatable for grazing, and its low growth habit allows to escape removal by mowing. And multiflora rose is an invasive shrub that grows in disused pastures, and its vigorous root system can send up new shoots that outpace all but the most aggressive removal efforts. In these cases, combining mowing with herbicides can be helpful. Keep in mind, however, that using herbicides without addressing soil fertility or grazing or mowing management will not bring about long-term improvements. Reseeding pastures and hayfields is expensive and labor-intensive. While they may not be growing vigorously and may be hidden among weeds, many unmanaged areas nonetheless have desirable forage grasses and legumes growing in them. And if they still make up a significant proportion of the stand, it's much easier to coax them back into production than to attempt to replace them entirely. Removing competing weeds and improving soil fertility have the added benefits of allowing existing forage species to flourish. It's possible to gradually introduce new species to forage stands with simple and inexpensive methods. One of the most popular of these is called frost seeding, where you scatter seed over the ground in late winter or early spring and rely on the soil heaving as it freezes and thaws to bury it. The technique works better for relatively larger seeded species, such as legumes, than it does for light and bulky grasses, and it works better in medium and heavy textured soils than in sandy or gravelly ones. When reseeding completely is called for, you need to suppress or eliminate the existing vegetation. Small seedlings don't have root systems that are developed well enough to compete with mature plants. Conventional tillage, plowing, and disliking the field to prepare a good seed bed is a viable option if the soil is not too steep or rocky. No-till seeding, where the existing sod is killed or suppressed by herbicides, or intense grazing before introducing seed with equipment that can place it in the soil, requires less time and fuel, and it is better adapted to areas where tillage is not appropriate.